This is how to play Port Royal. The setup is very simple. Shuffle the deck of cards and place it in the middle of the table, and then deal 3 cards face down to each player. This is not a hand of cards, this is a stack of coins. The face down coins represent money, and you don't look at these. There is one card in the deck which doesn't have a coin on the back, which is only ever used in a 5-player game, in which case it's set aside where all the players can see it. If it's a 2 to 4 player game, then it's put back in the box and it's not used. Play goes around the table clockwise, with each player taking a turn, which consists of 2 phases. First, the discovery phase, where you see what's in the harbour. The active player will reveal cards from the deck, and they're going to be either ships, which look like this, or people which look like this. And the active player can keep going, revealing as many cards as they wish, until either they choose to stop, or until 2 ships of the same colour wind up in the harbour. If that happens, then the player has pushed their luck too far, and all the harbour cards are discarded, and it's the end of that player's turn. Now, for example, this player takes their turn. So again, the discovery phase. We turn cards over to see what's in the harbour. This time, the player is going to stop at this point. Now we enter the trading and hiring phase. In this phase, the active player gets to take 1 card, either a ship to trade or a person to hire. Following that, every other player gets a chance to take 1 card too, but they must pay the active player 1 coin for the privilege of doing so. If you take a ship, then you discard the card, but you take the number of coins pictured. So this player wants money, so we'll discard the ship and take 1, 2, 3 coins. Now this player has a turn, and the only possibility is to hire someone. The cheapest person is 3 coins to hire, and they have 3 coins, but they would need to pay the other player 1 coin for the privilege, and they can't afford it, so they can do nothing, and those cards are discarded, and now it's their turn. There is one quirk of the game which I've not yet explained, and that is that if you end up in the harbour with 4 different coloured ships, the active player may take 2 cards. Those that follow can still only take 1. If there were 5 cards of different colours, then the active player could take 3 cards, and again those that follow only take 1. So, for example, this player may choose to take the ship, which would give 4 coins, which isn't bad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then has a look to see who there is available to hire. This chap here costs 6 coins to hire, so can be taken into hand, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coins discarded to pay for him. Now it's this player's turn. He also could take a ship, in which case he would get 3 coins and give 1 to the active player, or he decides he'd rather hire someone, so he will hire this one for 3. 1, 2, 3, discarded, and another one to the active player for the privilege. And so play continues. But when does it end, and what are you trying to do, and what are these people all about? Well, one reason for buying the people is they give you victory points. The end of the game is when one of the players has reached 12 victory points. At that point, everyone has an equal number of goes, so you keep going until you're back to the start player, and then you count up the victory points. The person with the most wins. What other sort of cards are there? Well, let's have a look at a few of the cards that you might buy. This one is a trader, and his ability is that whenever you take a green ship, you'll get an extra coin. All the abilities I'm about to show you stack up. So if you had 2 green traders, for example, every green ship would give you 2 extra coins. The same applies for everything else I'm about to show you. The Mademoiselle, she has the ability of reducing the cost of hiring anyone. You will pay 1 coin less than the printed cost. Thematically, I'm not quite sure why that should be. I suppose if you've got an attractive person in your company, people might decide to come and work for you for less money or something like that. We also have sailors, which have 1 sword, and pirates, which have 2 swords. What are these about? Well, you may have noticed and wondered what those swords are on the ships that come out. The answer is that if you have swords in your display, you can chase away the weaker ships. If you've got as many swords as are shown on the ship, you don't have to add it to the harbour in the discovery phase. You can reveal this ship, decide, no, I'm going to chase that away, and away it goes into the discard pile. You could chase this one away because you've got 3. You can't chase that one away, that would need 7, and there are some with skulls that can't be chased away at all. But having swords gives you a big advantage in terms of determining what comes out of the deck into the harbour, and this will give you a better chance of getting your 4 or even 5 different colours that would enable you to take your extra cards. What else have we got that you can hire? You can hire a priest, or a captain, or a settler, or a jack of all trades. Each of these have a symbol, and the jack of all trades represents any one of the 3 symbols. Why do you want this? Well, remember that card I showed you earlier? That's there in the box if it's not a 5-player game. There are others like that in the deck. These are called expedition cards. When these are revealed, they're not added to the harbour, they're put to one side, and any player can claim an expedition by discarding the appropriate number of symbols. So, for example, I could discard that one and that one as a cross in order to take this expedition. It gives you victory points and also a little bit of bonus money when you do. One of the variations in the end game conditions is that you not only have to have 12 points, but you have to have gained an expedition as well. I've not played this enough to know whether that variation makes the game better or worse or just different. Here's another sort of card which I've not yet talked about, and this is the tax card. Again, these turn up in the harbour deck, and you don't add them to the harbour, you simply do what it says and discard them. In each case, anyone who has 12 or more coins must discard half of their coins rounded down. That discourages people from building up too big a stack of money. And then either the person with most swords or the person with least victory points will get an extra coin. If it's a tie, then all tied players will get extra coins. And the last 3 cards are the Admiral. He likes having a lot of people in the harbour. So if there are 5 or more cards in the harbour when it's your turn to take a card, first of all you get 2 coins extra before you do any trading or hiring. The Jester is the opposite. He'll cheer you up if there's nothing in the harbour. When it's your turn and you're not the active player, then if there's nothing in the harbour to take, you get a coin instead. And this applies even if the active player has pushed their luck too far and found 2 ships of the same colour and there is no trading or hiring phase. If that happens, someone with the Jester, who is not the active player, gets a coin as a compensation. And the final card is the only one that doesn't actually have any victory points, but is very useful because it means you can take an extra card whenever it's your turn to take cards, whether you're the active player or not. However many you're allowed to take an extra one. If you're not the active player, you must pay the active player a coin for each extra card you take. And that's about all you need to know to be able to play Port Royal.